Okay, good evening, everyone. We're going to call our meeting to order. We're going to have a roll call by our City Clerk, Kathy Valdez.
The record shall reflect that all members are present.
If you'll all rise and join us with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Contreras. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 21 years ago, last Sunday, our lives were changed forever as a result of the terrorist attacks against the United States. On this 21st anniversary year, let us pause for a minute and pay tribute to those who lost their lives and the men and women who responded to the call of duty. We also acknowledge the living who serve our country, and we thank them for the great sacrifices they make for all of us every day. So let's just pause for a moment of silence. Okay, in accordance with the Brown Act, I'd like to announce that as a result of convening simultaneous meetings, the members of the Buena Sanitation District will receive compensation of $147.75 for the district meeting pursuant to Buena Sanitation District Ordinance 2006-1. I'd like to remind everyone that the Vista Municipal Code requires members of the public to observe order and decorum at the meeting and to conduct themselves in a courteous manner. The ordinance was adopted to allow for public input and to facilitate city business without disruption of the meeting. Applause is appropriate for items listed under the presentation portion of the agenda only. To speak on an item on the agenda, please fill out a speaker slip with the number of the item you want to speak on and give it to the clerk, secretary, staff. Speaker slips are available on the table just outside the City Council chambers, and speakers will have 3 minutes to address the City Council. With that, we'll have the approval of our agenda by our City Manager, Patrick Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. There are no changes to the agenda as the updated agenda, but I did want to let the audience know that the original agenda that was posted had item D2 on it, which was entitled Recreational Skateboard Ramps in Residential Zones. This item was removed from the agenda and will be brought back before the Planning Commission on October 18th, and that is when it will be heard. So if you're here for that item, it will be brought back to the Planning Commission on October 18th and then come before the City Council likely in November. Thank you.
Okay. We had a closed session, and our City Attorney, Walter Chung, will bring us out of our closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. In closed session tonight, in the matter of Centeno versus City of Vista, a personal injury matter, the City Council approved a settlement in the amount of $400,000. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. We have one presentation this evening. And I'd like to invite my counsel down below. I'd like to invite Jaden Randall to come to the podium so we can present her with a proclamation declaring September 14th, 2022 as Rick Randall Day in the City of Vista. So we'll all go down there, please. I'm going to read it here, so you can come back here with us. You don't have to stand there, okay? So I'll read the proclamation. So, whereas Rick Randall, a native Vista resident whose family has lived in Vista for generations, was an artistic metal sculptor who created memorable and impressive artwork for residents and visitors to enjoy throughout the city. Whereas Rick's metalworking skills were developed through 30 years of working in the automotive industry, in 2011, Rick put his metal skills to work, and in collaboration with his wife, Jaden, they designed and built their first piece of artwork, The Winds of Change, for the Kitesoar Vista program. Whereas since 2011, the Randalls have contributed numerous creative, interpretive art pieces, including additional kites, Climbing into Adventure, Flight of the Butterflies, Carnival and Freedom, and other interesting metal sculptures, such as the artistic bike racks, the Alley Art Man, the Alley Cat, the Alley Rat, the Alley Art Woman, the Time Machine, and the Love Locks, which is used for large events, marriage proposals, and anniversaries. I'm sure a lot of you have locks on there. I know a lot of people that do. Where the Randalls established the Randall Art Ranch in Vista to create and share art with the community and expanded their art contributions to other cities, including Bellflower, Manhattan Beach, Encinitas, Botanical Gardens, Palm Desert, and Oceanside. Rick was a visionary artist who was kind, helpful, thoughtful, caring, creative, generous, and patient. He was a dedicated husband and father and devoted to his craft. And the Vista City Council wishes to recognize Rick Randall and his wife Jaden for their beautiful and inspirational works of art that is displayed throughout the city of Vista and has contributed to making Vista an art destination. So now, therefore, the mayor and members of the Vista City Council do hereby proclaim Wednesday, September 14th, 2022, as Rick Randall Day in the city of Vista. So sadly, we do that, and congratulations on that. Family all here?
You want us to go to the front, Andrea?
You guys come up.
Come on, family. Come on down.
You want us to come up front? Okay, let's all go up front.
Good front, yeah, and then take a picture of the front.
Get the mayor in the front.
Hey, JC.
Hi, how are you?
Aren't you sweet?
Okay, everybody make a goofy face now. Come on. That's on video. Come on.
Gosh, we do happy ones and then we do sad ones. You know, that's a sad thing to lose someone like that. Okay, so onward here. On the consent calendar, the recommendations on the following consent calendar will be enacted in one motion unless an item is removed from the calendar. Any member of the public may remove an item by submitting a request to speak card to the clerk's secretary. Items removed from the consent calendar will be considered immediately following adoption of the calendar. We have 10 consent items this evening. And so I have one item that's pulled by the public, which is item C10. And so I would look for Deputy Mayor.
I'd make a motion to approve the balance of the consent agenda.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second for the balance of the consent calendar. So please cast your votes. Okay, that motion passes unanimously. So that takes us to item C10, the second reading of the City Council Ordinance amending Chapter 2.20 of the Vista Municipal Code regarding city manager and department heads. And so who's going to take that? Do you just want to hear speakers?
You want a presentation?
Want a presentation, or you just want to hear speakers? Okay, we'll hear the speakers. We'll start with John Gill, and he'll be followed by Dave Coles.
There we go.
Sorry, I forgot to turn that back around.
No, it's okay. Mayor, council members, I just want to first thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to speak, especially on this matter. I wanted to speak really quickly on the changes that you're making to the city's municipal code on hiring department heads. Watching the last council meeting on this topic brought some major concerns for me. I do understand that there should be some changes in the hiring process. You know, times have changed. There might be time for that right now. If the city manager is the only one that meets and hires candidates with no feedback from anyone else, then I feel that there could be change. Maybe the city manager should have other members in the department that the candidate is applying for, or other existing directors meet with that candidate and give the city manager feedback. You know, that could be an option. Stakeholders, union members, association members should absolutely not be a part of the suggestion for the candidates. Even if it's not this council's intentions to allow special interests for certain groups or even individuals. By voting this change in with this language to the municipal code opens up the door for future years, 10, 25, 30 years from now, for some person or some group to be enticed to recommend a candidate that would only help their own personal or organization's gain. In my career, I look for potential hazards for public health and safety, and I make sure to eliminate those potentials. And this is what I'm doing here tonight for the city and for the city's employees. This forced-ranked hiring was best said by Dick Betty, a professor at the University of Michigan. Betty said, it produces a workplace where you lose your winners and win your losers. It also says it is a bankrupt strategy. We will end up losing great employees that truly care about this city if you guys implement this. I spoke with other agencies in the North County, and not one of them said that stakeholders, union reps, and association reps have any input on the candidates. Even one said that they would not do this because it is a management role. They said that many candidates are found through third party or recruitment. Candidates will then be referred to the city manager's office, and the city manager will then choose the best candidate for the position by the help of his staff. I'm sure that Vista is ran this way, and I believe that it should stay this way. Maybe you can educate me on some of the current standard procedures for hiring department heads right now for the city of Vista. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Dave Coles. She'll be followed by Janice Efron.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. It's nice to be back here on this side of the speaker for a change. I came here because I have some concern about the urgency of trying to move this major change to the municipal code through in such a quick fashion. This is such a significant change to the structure, the way the organization will operate, that I think it merits a much deeper dive into the benefits or the problems that would arise from it. My experience, I want to share with you. I've served really on two sides of the table when it comes to public governance. I served as district superintendent here in Vista for 8 years. The school board elected officials hired me as their chief executive officer, much like your city manager, and told me to run the district based on the priorities, the policies, the budgets that they approved, and the policies and procedures that they developed for me to enforce and implement in the district. I was responsible for picking my leadership team. The school board had no role in that, nor did they want to have a role in that. I take exception. I had one board member one time, and this is the danger that you need to be aware of. This was a board member who didn't like a baseball coach at one of the high schools. He told me, he came to me, he said, "I want you to fire the principal." I said, "I'm not going to do that." He harassed the principal to the point where we had to have special action to where he could not visit campuses without being accompanied by other board members or other approved people from the district. The problem with having an elected person who doesn't understand the true complexity of operating the organization of hundreds of employees and the ripple effect that political appointments happen as a result of elected officials being involved in the selection. And that's what this ordinance allows the board, the council, to be the ultimate say in who gets a position of leadership. The city manager or the school superintendent needs to have their own leadership team. They have to be able to work with and trust and know that that leadership person is somebody. I have no objection to having stakeholders. I mean, I even had union reps involved in principal selections. We took input. We listened carefully to what everybody said, from parents to staff to all the stakeholders who would have to live with that leader. I have no problem with that. But ultimately, I needed to make the decision. When I sat on your side of the table, I felt that I needed to, sorry, I'm not used to having a clock. When I sat over there was no clock. Anyway,
You need to wrap up.
the last thing, wrap up, is why the urgency? You're putting the cart before the horse. If you don't do your workshop on this until after it's adopted, you need to analyze and understand the implications. Also, there's an election coming up. There will be new council people. They should be able, they're going to have to live with this. They may not want to live with it. They should be
Dave,
able to have some input.
you gotta wrap it up. Thanks, Dave. Okay, Janice Efron, followed by Miles Sweeney.
My name is Janice Efron. I have lived in the city of Vista since 1987. And I am here to speak in opposition to the proposed ordinance that seeks to temper the hiring and firing authority of city employees by the city manager. I think the question before us tonight is a very critical one. It is about whether we want our city of Vista to be administratively run by politicians or highly educated professional management. Our city manager, Patrick Johnson, holds both a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in public administration, operating outside the realm of political influence. And I want to emphasize that because I think that is very important. Operating outside the realm of political influence. He must be nonpartisan and politically neutral. We need this expertise in order to make proper decisions with regard to the hiring and the firing of city employees, particularly for jobs carrying high responsibility. We need governance that ensures these decisions are made by qualified individuals and not made by politicians who may be willing to become political pawns to carry out the wishes of those who would support their reelection. This proposed action appears to me to be a highly irresponsible grab for power by some city council members, and if passed, may not bode very well for the effective management of our city of Vista. The development of this ordinance, along with the other surrounding circumstances regarding its attempted passage, will not stand close scrutiny, and people are watching.
Thank you, Janice. Miles Sweeney, followed by Mary Ann Penamani.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Deputy Mayor, City Council. First off, I want to say thank you for remembering all the victims of 9/11 on the 21st anniversary, and of course, those that responded. It is truly appreciated. I represent over 80 professional firefighters, paramedics, investigators, inspectors within the city of Vista. Some of them who are out in the streets right now serving the citizens. I rise in support of this item. I was hoping for a presentation because it's become very clear between the special meeting and this meeting now that people are uneducated on this. They believe there's some sort of power shift or taking power away from the city manager, where clearly that's not what's happening at all. If anything, it's enhancing his power. How I see it is that this move by the council will give a seat at the table to the team members the new directors will be hiring. The ultimate hiring and firing authority will stay exclusively with the city manager with no council influence. This policy will ensure a panel of experts and stakeholders recommend the most qualified candidates to the city manager for hire. All candidates recommended will be qualified for the position per the city manager's requirements. And within our own fire department, we have a strategic plan. All of you are very familiar with it. It is created and crafted by external stakeholders, business owners, citizens, city management and administrators, and they give the expectation of what kind of fire department they want. And then this is turned over to the internal stakeholders. Again, firefighters, fire chiefs, inspectors, et cetera, paramedics. And then the people with the boots on the ground, the people that are actually doing the work, taking the risks. Those are the people that take the external stakeholders' requests and they craft it into something, and then they turn it over to the fire chief, who puts plan into action. The fire chief doesn't have his staff create a strategic plan and go forward with it without listening to the community or without listening to the internal stakeholders who can give the input of the actual job that's being done every day out there. If he did, it would fail. And so on that, that's just one little example of how this could only enhance. And what you're going to hear tonight, again, and what you heard in the special meeting.
Miles, I need you to wrap up.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. I am the special interest. I am the union boogeyman, but I'm also a citizen, and we work, live, our kids go to school here, we play in the parks, we do all of this. We don't deserve the union bashing. Thank you very much.
Mary Ann Pinamani.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and council members. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to address this issue. My name is Mary Ann Pinamonti. I've been a Vista resident off and on, mostly on, for over 50 years. My association with the City of Vista has been through the building department as far as business is concerned. I've had a couple tenures on the board at the Moonlight, volunteered at the Parks and Rec programs that my children have participated in, and went door to door for the bond issue in 2006 to get votes to finish the Moonlight and build the fire stations and the parks. And I worked in conjunction with the City of Vista and Affirmed Housing to build and gift the Vietnam Memorial Park to the City of Vista. I strongly support the recommendations of the California City Management Foundation, who basically overlook the ethical standards in the business of city management. They state unequivocally that it is not a good practice to have elected city officials be involved in the hiring practices of our city. The mayor, the city council people are elected officials who fundraise and accept donations. My understanding is that the job description of council members is policymaking. As a citizen, I would question the transparency of hires influenced by our elected officials. It's just too easy. And if you want, you can look at the news tonight to see the many examples of the way it can deteriorate the integrity of good institutions. We need to respect the people we have hired. We hire them and they've been vetted, they're educated, and we need to let them go and do their jobs. I have two examples. When I was on the board of a private school, there were some homework problems and discipline problems. We had a very influential orthodontist, and he wanted to set policy. We had a wonderful principal who was educated. She quit. That school has never come back to the standards that it once was. The other thing is, one time when I was the president at the Moonlight, our board members were out, they were trying to get donations, They came back and they wanted to influence who was cast in certain shows. They were legitimately looking to better the Moonlight, but that wasn't their job. It's not their job to cast, it was our job to fundraise. So I just feel like it's really important for us to keep things clear and separate and clean in our city so that we can continue to be proud of it and of the people that work here.
Thank you. That's our last speaker, so Councilmember Contreras.
I want to thank all the speakers for coming and voicing your opinions, your concerns, and seeking to make sure that this body does all it can to ensure fairness and the sustainability of the organization. So I really hope that all of you show up to the workshops that we're going to be having once we, within our authority, if there's a council majority that approves this change in the municipal code, we want to have the community come together to formulate what policy and procedures can look like. That's really important. We are talking here about having an inclusive hiring practice. I am 100% for an inclusive hiring practice. There is nothing concerning about equity and inclusion. I want to ask our city attorney a question or two. Walter, do we currently have a diversity, equity, and inclusion policy when it comes to hiring here in the city of Vista? Do we have DEI?
We do have a specific policy. We follow all federal and state guidance on this, but the city hasn't adopted its own policy, no.
Okay, and so as part of this process of reviewing the city manager's role, would DEI be an appropriate part of the conversation?
It could be. That would be left to your discretion.
Awesome. And you might be familiar with this city, Carlsbad. They have DEI. What does that look like?
Unfortunately, when I was with the city of Carlsbad, I was not involved in the hiring there, so I don't have any firsthand knowledge of that.
But this is a policy that they have adopted, correct?
I believe so. I was not involved in drafting or working on that policy when I was there.
Perfect. So the city of Carlsbad has a DEI policy. And one of the things that we want to ensure is that individuals who work for the city, first off, how can we take care of the rest of the community if we aren't taking care of our employees? That's my big concern. Individuals who work for the city of Vista, I want them to know that there is a trajectory for them, that when you exude excellence, that there is a transparent process that you can go through to advance your career. And maybe along the way, other opportunities in other cities will come along. But I think, from my perspective, as a council member, I really look forward to the community coming together and voicing these different concerns. Because with the direction that we provided our city attorney in the last meeting, it is not one that is going to create a process where the majority of the council hires and fires someone. Doing this change in the municipal code allows us to come together as a community to look at what are the best 21st century hiring practices. Because the last time that we amended the municipal code for the city manager was 1983. That's before some of the speakers that came up here to speak were even here in Vista. That's before I was born. So I think that I'm really proud of this council for having the courage to have these discussions And I'm really, really thankful for everybody who has spoken up with your concerns, because we definitely want to ensure that our city remains strong. And we can only do that if we are really focusing in on having more stakeholders at the table. So I look forward to the workshops. I believe October might be, the month that we looked at for having the first workshop. Please don't let this be the last time you come to council. Don't let this be the last time that you speak on this item. If you're really passionate about it, follow it through the process and make sure that your input is heard. Because we all want what's best for Vista. And we want to ensure that moving forward, there is a transparent process that is followed every single time. With that, I do want to move to accept C10, and I'm done with my comments for now.
Councilmember Green.
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councilwoman Contreras. This is just a policy I wanted to be super clear on, and listening to Mr. Cole speak, I believe this is something that inevitably, when it's actually crafted, I'm hoping that you will support. There is a sunset on the council verbiage on this that we passed at the last meeting. There's a 6-month sunset on any council oversight. There's currently no director positions that are open, and in order to have a workshop, we have to amend the municipal code to say, hey, council wants to change this and have a workshop about it. So I've spoken with the city manager. The city manager is definitely going to be involved in this process. Dolores Gascon, our director of HR, is going to be talking with us about who she thinks should be on this panel. None of us are experts, so we want to take her advice, the community's advice. Every panel will be crafted differently, I would assume, and whatever those panels look like will be formed in a workshop with collaboration. So this is a move by our city council, I feel like, to give our employees and also our city manager more information and more authority through the hiring process. It puts our city manager beyond reproach. When he has 10 of his stakeholders, 5 of his directors, and a couple of employees that recommend a few candidates that are qualified, when he hires those candidates, regardless of how they perform, he already has the support of his staff moving in. And currently, every position isn't hired like that in the director positions. There's 11 of them that govern 299 employees. We feel there should be more collaboration and inclusivity in that hiring process. What that looks like is going to be figured out in an open public forum. So this, municipal change is just saying, hey, we're going to have more stakeholders, more people at the table. One of my favorite sayings, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And nobody wants to be on the menu. Everybody wants to be on the table talking about what we're going to be doing. So I think the more influence that we can have and the more smart experts in every field and boots on the ground that are doing the job that can recommend qualified candidates to our city manager, who in the end has the ultimate authority, is a benefit to everybody. I sat on a lot of panels as a volunteer, as the president of the PTA for the whole school district, probably hired 6 to 7 principals that are actually working in upper management at the director level in the school district right now. And being a parent and just sitting on there as a stakeholder was amazing to say, hey, what type of principal is gonna come and be my kid's principal or be the principal of the 200 kids at the school? Nobody other than the boots on the ground and the stakeholders in those departments know what they need. And I think giving that additional information to our city manager and to the candidates is a huge benefit, and a benefit to the city of Vista, as well as a benefit to the city manager. So I second Councilwoman Contreras' motion, and I look forward to hearing from my other council members.
Councilmember Melendez.
Thank you all, and thank you to everyone who came to speak. It was really helpful to hear from different people and to also hear within the community, since we've been having this discussion. I've had people come up to me saying, the city of Vista fired their city manager. And I say, no, we did not do that. We are going into a process of developing an inclusive hiring practice for our department directors, which are some of the highest positions in the city. And I would consider this a form of making policy. We're directing policy regarding our city manager's expectation in how he goes about hiring, he or she. And this is not something where the city council is making the decision for the hires. I would not be personally sitting on a hiring panel for any of these director positions. Katie Melendez, would not be doing that. This would be to develop a policy for an inclusive hiring panel that then our city manager would be able to choose a candidate with said recommendations. I 100% believe in our city manager's excellence. And in fact, all of our staff, I believe, are awesome, incredible, kind, ambitious, smart people that I'm very, very proud to work with. And when there are individual personnel issues, we're able to learn from them and move forward in a better way. So seeing that our city manager is excellent and seeing that our staff is excellent, and for me, believing in equity and inclusion and wanting to continue to advance our ability as a community to do collective decision-making, all of us together being able to participate and contribute our value and perspective, I want to make sure that stakeholders are involved in that process. Not Katie Melendez, because I don't intend on sitting on any hiring panels for the city of Vista, but relevant stakeholders, I want to be involved in that process, because regardless of how excellent a city manager is, there is human bias, nobody is a robot, and this way we're able to ensure multiple perspectives and ultimately find the best candidate for the job. I also would agree with Councilmember Contreras. I think that it would be furthering our excellence to pursue diversity, equity, inclusion policies for all the roles at the city, not just for directors, because this conversation is about department directors and the city manager's role in hiring department directors. But I would like to see diversity, equity, and inclusion with all of our staff positions at the city of Vista. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Deputy Mayor. Deputy Mayor's name was on here, but it disappeared. So, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate that. Okay, so there's a real disconnect here tonight because there's a vision that the council has, which is to create a process that's different from the one that we use now, that provides employee groups a seat at the table in the hiring of department directors. That's the vision. We have language in front of us which says that the city manager, with respect to the hiring of department heads, the city manager shall make said appointments, and the change we make is inserting the words "in consultation and agreement with the majority of the city council." And I do want to acknowledge, and I want to thank my colleagues, because we also included Section 4, which is nearly the end of the document, and it is the sunset that we agreed to, which repeals this change the 181st day or 6 months after enactment. I voted no previously for two reasons. The first one was on Thursday, we had notified the public of this significant proposed change, and on Tuesday, we were voting on it. I didn't feel that it was enough time that had elapsed at that time to move forward with such a significant change. We've now had more than 2 weeks. Members of the community have had an opportunity to speak and to be heard. So to some extent, the concern about the rapid timeline that we adopted this change has been addressed by bringing it back tonight. The process, however, I want to speak to has nothing to do with the substance of this issue whatsoever. When the council desires to make a policy or a change to the municipal ordinance, we have the absolute authority to do that. And it is my wish, because there's a vision that the council shares, a majority of the council shares, and I think I share it too, but as is always said, you know, you have to get to the details to understand what you're agreeing to. In order to accomplish in the short term the vision which the council has, but we haven't narrowed down in a consultative process with all of the stakeholders concerned, and we haven't come to a final agreement on what the language of the policy should look like. And it's my wish that we had the language of that policy before us tonight. But what we have is we have an agreement from staff and from the council and from all the stakeholders to return. And do we have a date that we fixed for the workshop?
October 27th.
Okay, so on October 27th, we're going to return here in these chambers, right? And we're going to go about seeking input from the community about what this policy should look like. I have agreed that the employee associations, employees should have an opportunity to have a voice in this hiring process. What exactly that looks like, we need to discuss. We need to get input from the associations, and we need to come to an agreement on the details, because the details are all important. So I continue to have, again, not with the substance of the issue, but with the process where we have the absolute authority to make policy and to change the ordinances. So why then, this is not the first time, which is the reason I'm saying this, why, when we want to change the policy, do we not use the process to work together? We give, I mean, ordinarily the way we would do this is either A, we would bring a perfected piece of legislation, a written policy, and we would ask our colleagues to agree to that, or B, we would bring a concept to the staff and we would give direction as a council, and we would, a majority of the council would agree to that vision, and then the staff would do their very best to bring that vision back in a written policy, which then we could adopt. And in my opinion, that really gives the community the opportunity to discuss and give input on the minutia, which is, you know, the important detail of these policies. Instead, we are proceeding with a pretty, you know, large increase in power for the council. The language is clear and unambiguous of the short-term policy. Now, because I agree and I embrace the idea that there's different perspectives here on what it is that we're doing right here tonight, and because I voted no on it last time, but in appreciation for and in recognition of the fact that the council has agreed to put a sunset on this, I am going to vote for this tonight because I want the community to know that I do support examining this policy. I do look forward to developing the policy in concert with you and with all the stakeholders, and I want that to be clear where I'm at on this subject. My objection in the last meeting, and I continue to have an objection about the process with which we're doing it, but I don't have an objection to the vision that I look forward to developing and narrowing down in cooperation with you. So for that reason, I'm going to vote to approve this item tonight. Thank you.
Councilmember Green.
I just wanted to separately give a shout out to our current directors. We have amazing directors here in the city of Vista that my city manager has hired. You know, lots of them are sitting back there, but you know, ones I just wrote down off the top of my head. I got Mike Silva, got Amanda Lee back there, John Conley, Mike Pacheco, Parks and Recs, Kuna, always making me look good in Public Works, and also Loris Gascon in Human Resources. I'll see Caitlin and Sylvia and Imelda back there, but I want to make sure you guys know we do have amazing hires. We have amazing directors at this point in time. All we want to do is, as we hire new team members, have our community involved in that. And I want to make sure our directors know that we appreciate them. You guys work extremely hard. The policies that you craft and help us craft make us look amazing as a council, and we think you're doing a great job, and we're excited to continue to work with you and work with our city manager on this process. And city manager's hanging out, he's working with us, and when all is said and done, he's going to still be the guy here leading and steering this ship. And I think that's very important to know, is Mr. Johnson's an amazing city manager. We're happy to have him, and we think that this policy is going to help solidify what he's doing here for our city. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Contreras.
I just want to say I really appreciate the conversation that we're having, and I believe, Deputy Mayor, that your wish to have a policy in front of us that we can vote on is going to be the ultimate end of this process once we get that stakeholder input, community input, right? That's why I really want to encourage everybody to reach out to everybody you know. We have a date, October 27th, right? Let's get together. Let's have a really good conversation about the city and how we want to continue to have a well-run city and promote diversity, equity, inclusion, and promote transparency, promote the ability for any city manager, regardless of who they are, for the perpetuity of the city of Vista, to be able to have a collaborative approach so we can reach out to as many qualified candidates as possible and ensure that our internal candidates have a good process where they can, enter at an entry level and have a career trajectory that is going to make, a world of difference for them and their family, and ultimately promote community well-being. So I really appreciate the conversation that we're having, and I look forward to seeing that, tons of people join this workshop on the 27th.
Okay, and I would just say that it's still this thing still reads, we're voting for, with regard to hiring department heads, the city manager shall make said appointments in consultation and agreement with the majority of the city council. So that's the way this reads, and I can't support that. I think our city manager's done a great job of appointing department heads, and I think he does. I trust his judgment. That's what we hired him for. The city council in the past has not really gotten involved in personnel issues, and so they're kind of getting into that right. That now that's a place that we never have. We were always involved in policy issues. So I'm going to not support that. So I will call for the vote. That motion passes 4-1. I have a late speaker here. Epi Tapia came. I don't think that you still, is this on this issue? You still want to talk? Sorry, you came in late after all the speakers. Okay. Okay, so then, hold on, moving on. The next thing on our agenda is our discussion item. There's one discussion item this evening with item D2 having been removed from the agenda last week. This item is regarding the permanent supportive housing request for qualifications. Assistant City Manager Amanda Lee is going to introduce this item.
Hi, good evening, Mayor and City Council members. The item before you this evening is to review and discuss a permanent supportive housing request for qualifications known as an RFQ. In January 2022, staff was directed to publish a request for proposals, an RFP, for the development and operation of a year-round shelter. Unfortunately, due to limited city resources to develop and operate a shelter, the RFP was unsuccessful. Subsequently, in April 2022, staff was directed to draft an RFQ to solicit interest from preferred developers for the development of permanent supportive housing. Permanent supportive housing is considered a form of affordable housing that includes support services to assist people with disabilities or other special needs who are unsheltered or at risk of becoming unsheltered. Typically, people in permanent supportive housing receive some form of financial assistance to assist with rental costs. Over the last 10 years, The city has successfully developed 3 affordable housing developments, North Santa Fe, Paseo Point, Paseo Artist Village, utilizing the RFQ process. The city's housing resources are required to mainly develop affordable housing. The RFQ to be discussed this evening was developed with input from affordable housing developers and other local jurisdictions. Now I turn the presentation over to Sylvia Solis Daniels, Housing Programs Manager, to further discuss the RFQ.
Thank you, Amanda, and good evening, Mayor and council members. The RFQ before you describes proposed development as high-quality, affordable, permanent supportive housing. HUD defines permanent supportive housing as permanent housing in which housing assistance, such as long-term leasing or rental assistance, and supportive services are provided to assist households with at least one member with a disability in achieving housing stability. The development is targeted to support housing-ready, unsheltered individuals with up to 10% of housing units that will be dedicated to house unsheltered veterans. Prospective developers are invited to submit a Statement of Qualifications, an SOQ, to the Community Development Commission. They will express their interest in the city's identified development site and background information on their qualifications and comparable development experience. The commission intends to compile a short list of developers, conduct interviews, and ultimately select a preferred developer. After this selection process, the commission will proceed with the negotiation of a disposition and development agreement, a DDA, for the development and subsequent operation of the project, which will come back before the City Council by summer 2023 for final approval. The RFQ specifies the commission will provide a $2 million financial contribution from the city's affordable housing funds to support the development. The financial contribution will be recorded as a residual receipt loan due and payable at the end of 55 years. The developer is expected to identify a comprehensive financial projection package for the RFQ, indicating various funding sources, which could include state tax credits, grants, and conventional loans. In addition to the financial contribution, the RFQ identifies the development site 902 Vista Village Drive. The property is owned by the city and runs parallel to Vista Village Drive, east of Palm Drive, and is located north of the historic downtown district. The proposed unit count and non-residential public service area will be required as part of the submittal. Most of the units will need to be reserved at or below 30% of the area median income to support the formerly unsheltered target population. However, the exact affordability mix will be negotiated during the DDA drafting process. This slide provides an overview of the proposed schedule, pending tonight's review and approval from City Council. The RFQ will be published tomorrow, September 14th, 2022, submittal deadline of October 26, 2022, review by commission, November 9th, 2022, interviews, week of November 28th, 2022, and final City Council approval by summer 2023. This concludes our presentation, and we are available for questions.
Councilmember Contreras.
Thank you for the presentation. I read this agenda item as quite exciting. It's probably, one of the driest agenda items I've ever seen. And it's usually not something that we review, or is it?
That is correct. Over the last couple of RFPs, the safe parking, the permanent supportive housing, and the shelter, those ones have been requested to go back to council. But for the last RFQs that we've done for housing, they've never gone to council.
Okay. And I really don't think that they need to come back to council if they're going to be like this. I mean, there's nothing scary or dangerous. What was the concern? Why did this have to come back?
It was requested by council.
Okay. For any particular reason?
No, that was just our direction.
All right. Well, I will let you know that I don't think I personally don't need to micromanage our RFP process. I think this is great. It's something that is going to address those who are housing ready and have nowhere to go. We have a significant population that's housing ready that, unfortunately, when you're housing ready and you're waiting forever, years to try and get into some kind of housing, it's so difficult to stay afloat in that transition. So the more permanent supportive housing that we can do, the better. I think that this location is extremely valuable and appropriate for permanent supportive housing. You have 2 bus routes that go, the 318 and the 302? And then 0.2 miles from that, you can get on a different bus. So we still have a lot to do on the NCTD side to make the buses better and have shelters and stuff like that. But this is an incredible opportunity, and hopefully we have some takers on this. But yeah, I don't want to have to, personally for me, I don't know what my colleagues, because it seems like we made this decision, I don't really need to micromanage this process. But I do have a question, because I asked our city manager, and I didn't have an answer. So on page 10 of 60, the project area map, there's a pickup truck on that map, and it says 924. The agenda item only refers to 902 Vista Village Drive. So I wanted to see if there was any information on this 924 address. Is that just like our GIS not working?
Yeah, it's 902. It is just our GIS site. That is the total site.
Okay, I just wasn't sure. I just wanted to get an official answer on the record, because it kind of, when we were reviewing it earlier, it kind of threw us for a loop and we were scratching our heads. Okay. Awesome. And then I have one other question, just out of curiosity here. So it says that the Community Development Commission, who sits on that commission?
You, the commission is you. It's the city council. When you're overseeing housing authority, though, you serve as the Community Development Commission.
Okay, awesome. So that was it. That's a great clarification. And outside of that, I guess I will move to accept.
Need a motion?
Make a motion.
We don't need a motion
Oh,
on
we
it.
don't? Okay, perfect.
We just need the council's feedback.
All right. Well, my feedback is that I don't need to see more of these proposals unless there's something more exciting about them. It seems very just something under the purview of our excellent staff that could be, maybe we can even move faster getting these projects online if we don't have to wait for a council meeting to review all this stuff. So that's it. Thank you.
Councilmember Green, your name fell off, but I saw it was there and then it went away.
Thanks. It's magic. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you so much for this presentation. I know we spoke about putting permanent supportive housing or some type of shelter within the city of Vista, and our last RFQ had hey, let's make it a safe parking lot and showers, and kind of had everything, and we didn't get any proposals because it was too much to ask for. So I love the fact that we can say, hey, this time we got land for you, we got money for you, and we're ready for you to show us that you're qualified to build this thing. So I appreciate it. I was probably the one that said bring it back. So I'm not here to micromanage you at all, but I've never had a housing shelter in the city of Vista. And, as far as something that we're doing, permanent supportive housing, this is new for us. And I'm stoked to be able to say, hey, as a council, we're bringing it and we're putting it right downtown close to where all the transit is and things. And hopefully by whoever's watching this meeting, we'll get a lot of great proposals for it because they see we have skin in the game now. We got a location for it and we got money for it. And before it was just kind of a, pie in the sky dream of, hey, what place are we going to take over? Where are we going to put it? And how can you do all of this in one spot? So I think, this focus strategy that you're doing where you say, hey, permanent supportive housing here. I know we spoke about, showers and safe parking lots and kind of everything else, kind of in its own little microcosm of how we address the homelessness. So I like it. I don't think any changes need to be made for it. I'm good with you putting it out, and I hope that we get some really good players who come into Vista here who can really make a difference and help our community. So thank you so much, Amanda and Sylvia, for your presentation and for your work on this. And thank you, Councilwoman Trish.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So to me, permanent supportive housing is really about mental health because what it is housing that is subsidized, but that also has on-site mental health services, potentially addiction treatment services. Those services to be provided by the operator and included in the request for proposal. It's a product that we have very little of right now, if any, in the city of Vista. I asked our housing navigator that we hired, and thank you very much to City Manager Patrick Johnson, provided me today at my request with a list of 10 different individuals who are employed in different social work capacities with the city of Vista and the county in different programs that are operating here. I think out of the 10, there were 8 that received funding from the city of Vista. So we've made a strong commitment to serve the mental health needs of the people of Vista, and that's really what permanent supportive housing is all about. And while shelter is necessary and is important, the idea of permanent supportive housing is an exciting one because this is the place that you go once you've succeeded in the shelter to be permanently housed, as the word permanent supportive housing implies. So I really look forward to the day that we can move somebody from the shelter into this facility and see the joy on their face to know that they have a permanent place to live that is going to assist them with their mental health needs. I never want to miss an opportunity to remind the public that Vista has the first in the county crisis stabilization unit, which provides mental health services to families in need in Vista. Today, there are 2 more that have been built, one in Oceanside, one in Escondido, part of what we've been promised by the Board of Supervisors to be a network of 8 of those around the county that expanded, and we were the first right here in Vista. So we've made a very strong commitment to expanding mental health services. I have long said we have to put our money where our mouth is on that. And I think it's very important that we next set to work with our county partners and the other cities in the county. I mentioned the roster of social work team. We do not have a countywide, statewide database of permanent supportive housing. I was floored to learn that after we'd hired a professional housing navigator, my first inquiry was, what system are you using to locate this housing stock? And the answer came back, Craigslist. And I was completely mind blown that we have failed as leaders regionally to create a database system where we would know where our assets are. These are assets that are created and funded with public support, and the public has a right to demand that we know where they are and that we know how to get folks. I mean, we went out, we hired social workers to offer shelter, and I think many of us, I know I've been involved in a number of individuals who've gone to the shelter. Some of them have succeeded and wanted to move on, and this is what we hear. This is the limitation in the shelter system is, if they're successful in the shelter, where then do they go? And that's why we're having this conversation. That's why I think it's incredibly important that this does come back to council and that we get the community involved in this, because the community needs to know that we've made this commitment. This is a big step forward for the city of Vista, and it's going to come with some concerns. And I think we're going to work together to address those concerns. But I think we're also going to change lives with this project. So I appreciate the staff's work on it. I look forward to receiving the proposals.
Councilmember Melendez.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda and Sylvia. And I am also really excited to see the proposals on this. Back in May, when we had our discussion about our strategic plan to address homelessness, I met with a group of folks who have lived experience of homelessness. And we came up with a list of things that we thought would be really helpful for the city to do in order to advance those concerns, right? So for the folks that do have lived experience, one of their bullet points that we came up with was, and I sent this in as a letter for the public record at that time, but it was permanent supportive housing and other lifelong solutions that aim to house with care. So I totally agree that permanent supportive housing is about your long-term, lifelong housing needs and your mental, behavioral, physical, every type of health that you might have a concern about. So now in the city of Vista, we get to move forward at providing a housing opportunity for people to be housed with care, especially for those who may have been awaiting this type of resource for a very long time. And just as a clarification, I know Deputy Mayor Franklin mentioned that there's not a regional database on permanent supportive housing stock or even affordable housing available in our area. From my experience providing services, the Regional Task Force on the Homeless, which is our head of our continuum of care, they run the Homeless Management Information System, HMIS, which I believe triages individuals into those housing options. It's not a database of those housing resources, so I agree that there could be like a more clear, right, Craigslist-esque of all the affordable housing and permanent supportive housing and housing with care type programming available, but because it's triaging people, right? One of the problems that I know, the challenges that our social workers are up against is that there's a limited amount of affordable housing and permanent supportive housing and even shelters and all these important resources. And all of their clients get triaged into these different resources, either through just their knowledge of the available resources or through, this continuum of care through HMIS. So it's really going to help our city to be able to provide this kind of resource for them. And I would like to see us, as leaders, providing more information so that this work can just be done way more efficiently. So thank you so much for bringing this forward, and I'm excited to get the proposals.
Councilmember Contreras.
I just wanted to just have a clarification. So this is not our first permanent supportive housing in the city, because the other permanent supportive housing off North Santa Fe will probably be online before this is built, right? But this is the first one that we as a city are doing.
Yes, this is the first one we're doing. However, in October is when the North Santa Fe is going to come back to you. It's already been approved through the development, but we'll be coming to you with
the full design
for some. No, that one was over the counter because of where it was located, but we are coming to you for a financial obligation towards it. So the city will be a partner if it's going to come in for consideration to council, and that should be coming shortly. So that one will, at 414, go up.
So that one's way ahead.
Yeah, that one has already received funding and different types of entitlements. And so that one will definitely be online first. And they already have requested tax credits as well. So if they get those tax credits, they'll be rolling along. This one will definitely be a few years behind that project.
Okay. And the $2 million, that's usually not enough money to build something. So are we going to be going through a process too of trying to
Yeah, so the provider's going to have to do a whole funding package, and part of the funding package is tax credits. And for you to be competitive with tax credits is you need some type of government funding included with it. Local funding gives you kind of a boost, and then there's other funding sources as well out there. There's a lot of resources out right now, and if we put resources in, we'll be able to gain more resources. So it's kind of our push into it.
Okay, and so what's a ballpark time frame from now until the doors are open? If everything goes well?
Yeah, 4 to 5 years. So basically, you're looking at, we're going to come to a DDA with you in summer, and then tax credits, you can only actually do tax credits in like March, and you get awarded in March and September. So it's 2 times a year. So we'll probably miss all that, but then it also has to go through the whole entire entitlement phase. You have to have entitlements to be able to go for other funding sources. So 4 to 5 years. I could tell you that the Paseo Artist Village, we released that RFQ in 2016, and it is just now in February. We're going to be doing the grand opening next month, or this next week, but people started moving in February of this year, so that one took long. Granted, there was other obstacles with acquiring land, and there was a fiber optic hub in the middle, but they do take some time to be developed.
All right, awesome. And I'm curious to see if there's going to be, as part of the supportive services, if there will be any harm reduction as far as having naloxone and Narcan on hand. Is that something?
We haven't gone into any of those type of discussions.
Okay.
I can tell you that our social workers are all trained with Narcan.
Okay, good. All right, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Franklin.
Just clarification. Sorry, just clarification on the North Santa Fe project. That's a 55 and over restricted property.
Yes, it's senior. It's 54 units, 55 older.
And are there going to be any mental health services there, or it's just for seniors? So the supportive services are for people who are senior, but will there be, for people who suffer from schizophrenia or some other kind of severe mental illness?
I don't believe they're doing SMI, severe mental illness. It's a permanent supportive housing, so services will be there, but they have to be housing ready. So the severity of their mental illness, we would have to go back to the developer to get more information.
Okay.
But there are different categories. There's something called an SMI, which is severe mental illness, which is kind of another layer of affordable housing.
Right. Thank you. And the other thing I just wanted to clarify is I'm very familiar with the HMIS system, which is really it's a database of people, but we don't have a database countywide of housing. And obviously, I mean, this land is worth what, $2, $3, $4 million, right? Low two, okay. And we're going to put $2 million in cash with it, so it's a $4 million public expenditure. My concern is that we invest such a great amount of public resources into the housing stock, and when we do talk about triaging, this is what's really truly concerning to me. I want to know that the people who are in the greatest need are going to have first access. The problem is when we have a word-of-mouth system, which is what we have today, that it's only the people who are in the immediate knowledge of, say, our social work team, and that social worker happens to know about these opportunities. So maybe the most deserving person that our social work team is familiar with is going to get that opportunity, but maybe not somebody who's even more deserving if we had a database system. So I have a vision that we need a countywide database of housing. The other thing is, we really can't speak intelligently about the number of permanent supportive housing units available. And it's my suspicion that you'd like to have that information too, so that we could speak intelligently to the public about what is the supply? How many units are there? What's the demand? How do we fail to meet the demand? What do we need to do to meet that demand? How much more is required? Without quantifying the problem, I don't think we get where we need to be as policymakers to really having the tools we need to solve it. So I really feel like, and I've been talking to staff for more than a year about this since we hired Kendine, is, hiring somebody to search Craigslist is, I'm glad we have her, but I wish that she had better tools to make her, services even more valuable and to really be responsible to the public for the major public investment in these housing units, to really be able to tell the public where they are and to assure the public that we're putting the most deserving people in them first. That's my big concern. So I hope that we can further the discussion on that. And, I'm asking our county board of supervisors, they really should be leading that. And then I think all of us as council people in every city in the county need to really be on board with this idea that, we should be participating in cost sharing to build this system, because I think you could build it for $1 million or $2 million, but no city or the county should have to bear all that expense by themselves. But we need to know where this housing stock is that will accept people with severe mental illness, even if it's not a supportive housing, but you have housing that, people with, as we know, people who suffer homelessness have this wide range of comorbidity. And just to know for each of those comorbidities what a particular housing opportunity would accommodate, I think would be hugely important. And so I just see a lot of utility in it, and I hope we can continue the discussion on it.
Councilmember Contreras.
I just want clarification. When we say that there are 0 right now permanent supportive housing units in the city of Vista, is that factual or is it not factual?
There are 0 City of Vista sponsored permanent supportive housing units in the City of Vista currently.
So that, I'm just like trying to figure out what Deputy Mayor is saying when, we want to speak intelligently about something. So I just wanted to clarify, like, if there was a permanent supportive housing unit that came up, how would anybody know about it?
There are affordable housing units, and my understanding of this conversation is that you're referencing all scope of affordable housing units.
Not just permanent.
That's my understanding.
But we would know if there's a permanent supportive housing unit available.
Yes, they would absolutely reach out to the city and they would go through the development process, so we would be informed.
Okay, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
So then, do you have a list? When is the last time that the affordable units that we subsidized, when's the last time that you received the notification that the unit was available?
We do an annual monitoring, and we're currently in that process. So they identify any units that have been transitioned from one tenant to another.
That's a great point. I mean, an annual basis is not sufficient, right? So, and I just want to clarify, when I said speak intelligently about it, I didn't mean with regard to human intellect. I meant with regard to being apprised and knowledgeable about the availability of stock. So I think when you ask, you're saying is there 0 right now? I think the actual answer is we don't have any idea. I think we can speak on an informed basis about whether or not there's City of Vista funded permanent supportive housing, but whether or not there's permanent supportive housing that's provided either state, county, federal dollars, or private dollars, I'm not sure we know the answer to that. In fact, I'm sure we don't know the answer to it because I've asked, and I've actually sat down with Ms. Lee and Ms. Celeste Daniels, and we've had this conversation in depth about trying to understand where our talents are buried. To use a reference, the people have given us these resources. We've spent millions and millions and millions of dollars. State has, county has, feds have, city has, and we're building these things. How do we inventory them? When you run a business, the first thing you want to know before you acquire more of something is, do we have any of it in inventory? That's business 101, is to know where your assets and resources are located and whether or not they're currently being utilized, whether or not you had a shortage of them that would require you to buy more. So this is simply about being business-minded and organized about our assets. And it strikes me as, like I say, it just blew my mind that Craigslist became the de facto way to find out if there's housing stock available, especially when we're referring to the context of government subsidized housing stock, whether it just be affordable, low income, or be it wraparound with services, senior services, mental health services, severe mental illness services. And we have all these different products, and we don't know necessarily what's available except you're telling me right now on an annualized basis, we're getting information, but we need real-time information so that our housing navigator can access that information on the fly and use that, up to the minute information to help people find housing. And like I say, I know the public wants to know that we're putting the people who have the greatest need for that wraparound housing, because this is so important to so many families in our city whose family members need these services. And it is incredibly important that we make sure that the folks who are in the greatest need, have access in first crack, because we don't know how many units we're going to build here. We're waiting for the proposal. However, it's going to be a small number compared to what really we know the need is, and they're going to fill up immediately. And so I just am super concerned to make sure that not just for this project, but for every project, county-wide, statewide, we should know the answer to this. And I just want to expose the fact that, we've spent hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, state, county, feds, city, and don't really have an inventory of where these assets are. And to me, that's not acceptable, and I think we need to change it. So I'm just trying to start a conversation that I hope goes further than this council chambers. I hope you'll share with your colleagues in the staff level of other municipal agencies where we need to have that kind of a resource. So, thanks.
Councilmember Melendez.
Thank you. I agree at the county level that this would be totally appropriate. I was trying to remember, I knew that at one point, I was like, I know that the city has to have something on their website required to provide a list of affordable housing, and I actually just referenced it. So because of AB 987, we have to have a list of all the affordable housing properties. And I remember providing social work services, having to, naively calling, saying, hello, do you have anything available for a client? And no, it's a 5-year wait list, 10-year wait list, 10-year wait list, 10-year wait list, right? So the information we have as a city is very limited. We have to provide some information, but I would definitely be supportive of lobbying our San Diego County leaders to invest in a database that allows the public to access these resources more readily. The biggest opportunity we have here is to provide those resources in the first place. So I'm really excited. Thank you so much to our awesome staff for facilitating this. And yeah, that's all. I agree. I think that we need more information available about these resources.
Okay, so I think we talked that one out. Okay, so do you have enough information then from everybody?
Yes, we do.
Thank you. Okay, so then do we have any oral communications? No, we have none tonight. Oh, okay. Then we'll go to remarks. I guess I'll start with Councilmember Melendez. Let's go this way this time.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't have much to add. I want to say hello to all the students who are obviously here to get some credit, but also because we have a lot of fun, right? I don't have too much to report, but I will say that last week I got to join League of Cities conference in Long Beach with all of the California cities. And we discussed a lot of awesome topics like homelessness and equity. We heard from keynote speakers, and we got to vote on League of City Business. So that is a really awesome opportunity to be in that role. And other than that, I hope everybody enjoys their rest of their night. And I think that Kinky Boots is going to be opening at the Moonlight soon. So everybody go see that, because that'll be a lot of fun. And yeah, hope you have a good night. Bye.
Councilmember Contreras.
All right, I want to thank you all for being here. Hopefully this is not the last time that you'll be sitting in this chamber. Please come back, bring your friends, and one day when you can, run for these seats up here. All right, that's the most important thing that you can do, is stay involved in your community. I want to say that Wednesday is still going to be trash pickup day at Luz Duran. If you want to join in, it's at 8 a.m. Please contact Jovita Serafin, Guerreras en Acción por un Vista Limpio. She's the incredible team captain. I unfortunately have to go down to San Diego, and since I'm going to be taking public transit there, I probably got to start at 6:30. making my way down over there to get there at the Board of Supervisors meeting. I complained enough about the Buena Creek Transit Center. So Supervisor Desmond did put that on the agenda, but I still got a few more things I got to complain about. So I'm just going to take myself down there and do that before work. Outside of that, I hope everybody has a super good day. And if you ever need to reach any of us, we are very accessible. We're right here on the 3rd floor. Any questions that you all have, please let us know. Also, I want to, just in case anybody here in this audience, you might find this interesting. The council did allocate funds for internships, paid internships over the summer. We just had a cohort that finished that. The more students that can apply for that, the better. You can continue showing us as a council that this is something that you all want to see in the community. So that way we can, have a discussion like the discussions you saw, and we can be like, hey, there's a majority that wants to continue funding paid internships over the summer for 100 hours, right? So that stuff's really awesome. But I hope that you have a very good night, and that's all from me.
Councilmember Green.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you to my colleagues on council. You guys are spectacular. I love all your words. Thank you to my amazing staff, my agenda, prime time. Although it's up on my desk, know that I have automatic electronic access, and I reviewed it so many times. You're awesome. Also want to thank residents and students. She hopes you guys will come back. You all need extra credit. You're coming back. Come on. We got 3 more. So thanks for showing up. For next time, no, you guys only have to stay for an hour to get the extra credit. But we appreciate you staying the entire time and learning more about the city. So thanks for showing up. Today happens to be my favorite day of the week. It's Taco Tuesday. So in case you didn't know, we got lots of spots to get tacos in Vista. Go get one. Have a great night, V-Town.
Deputy Mayor Franklin.
So, Madam Mayor, I wanted to give an update on my participation in the San Diego Association of Governments, SANDAG, in the last board meeting from the 12th. And this is really applicable to all of you who are watching tonight. In their 2021 regional plan, SANDAG in Appendix V identifies that they intend to levy a 3.3 cent per mile tax on every mile that you drive in your automobile. The San Diego Union Tribune reports they expect an additional 2 cents to be levied by the state of California for every mile that you drive. They call it a road user charge, or sometimes referred to as the vehicle mile tax. This is super important. If you take 5.3 cents and you multiply it times the number of miles that you drive and the number of miles that everyone in your family drives, that's what the impact to your family is going to be. One of the specific and pointed questions that I put to the leadership of SANDAG was, tell us that you intend to repeal the gas tax before you implement the 5.3 cent mileage tax. They were silent. They don't intend to repeal the gas tax. They intend to add this new cost on top of the fuel tax to make it further difficult for working families to be able to afford to drive to school and work. To me, that is completely unacceptable. Leadership on the board knows the idea is so horribly politically unpopular that they actually wrote a letter asking SANDAG leadership to change the policy or to propose alternatives. But yet SANDAG leadership, staff leadership, actually sent a letter to the state, asked them to approve the plan with the mileage tax included. So we have sort of a hide the ball going on where the majority on SANDAG says that they don't want the mileage tax, but staff continues to bully forward with the mileage tax, all of which has caused residents to come to me and ask me whether or not, in fact, the leadership at SANDAG, the staff leadership, is sort of covering for the majority membership of SANDAG. Because if the staff is not following the direction of the elected policymakers, then obviously the staff should be reprimanded and disciplined for their failure to comply with the directives of the board. So this is super important for all of you here tonight. 5.3 cents per mile. Go home and discuss that with your family members. What would that mean to your family if you had to start paying that tax? Because right now, it is included in a regional policy document as a proposed tax, in addition to a 1.5 cent sales tax measure that would add 1.5 cents to the cost of every dollar that you spend on things like clothes and automobiles and other purchases that you need for your life. So we have an important decision to make as Vistans. This council passed a resolution opposing that mileage tax because, in my personal opinion, it absolutely crushes working families, people that need their automobiles to commute. Now, we can have a conversation about electric vehicles. Electric vehicles don't pay gas tax. And I think it's important to have a conversation about how drivers of electric vehicles contribute to the road system that they use. It's important to pave the roads for them too, and they need to pay their fair share. But in my opinion, any discussion about a vehicle mile tax should apply only to electric vehicles, and we should have a real conversation about making sure that that tax is equitable for everyone. So that's super important. It's going to make a big change for our families, and I hope that everybody in Vista will pay close attention to this debate.
Thank you. You're right. I'm not looking forward to that either. So Moonlight Theater's final production of the summer, Kinky Boots, starts tomorrow night and runs through October 1st. Ticket information is online at moonlightstage.com. Vista residents and business owners are encouraged to apply for the city's 2 seats on the Clean Energy Alliance Community Advisory Committee. That information is online at cityofvista.com news. And I want to thank all of you students for coming tonight. That was nice of you, sat all the way through, all the way to the end here. And you know what? Taco Tuesday is not just in Vista, it's nationwide they do Taco Tuesday.
No, just in Vista.
No, because I was just in Michigan and they had Taco Tuesday in Michigan. I'm telling you, they don't know how to make tacos though. Not the ones that we have out here. We have the best. But I just want you to know that it's a nation thing. I was surprised. So anyway, so and then one last thing I wanted to say was I thank God it got cooler. It was so hot the last week, and you know I'm glad it got cooler. But I wanted to thank our firemen. I know they're unhappy with me at this time, but they're out on strike teams in the fires and things, and I thank God it got rain that helped, and you know it got cooler. I appreciate each individual fireman and all that they do to keep our city safe and to keep people safe, and to know that they're out there. I always think about them out there traipsing through the mountains and the rocks and everything and fighting those fires, and so I'm just very thankful that they do that for us. So appreciate them. Turn it over to my city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I believe everybody is back with the exception we have one division chief that is out on a Northern California fire, but it's nice to.
We had like 5 strike teams out at one time, didn't we? Something, yeah.
So everybody's back and safe. I just had one update tonight, and that is the dedication of ball field number 2 at the Bringle Terrace softball fields will be dedicated in memory of Steve Rhodes, and that is on Friday, September 23rd at 4:30, and the public's invited. Mr. Rhodes passed away in 2020 and played an integral part of the success of our youth sports leagues and softball. So I just want to let everybody know that on September 23rd at 4:30, we're going to be dedicating the field in his honor.
Oh, nice, okay. How about a city attorney, deputy city clerk down there?
No, we'll just let the students know that there's staff in the back, or you come up to the front and we'll sign your papers when we're done.
Okay, how about our assistant city clerk? Anything, Claire? Okay, so with that, it is 7:03 and we are adjourned.